Okay, so supposedly we are live on all channels. Again, we still have some time until people connect. And yeah, I plan to be quite relaxed. So we can wait for a few more minutes. Yeah. And I'm setting the last notice to the team chat, just in case. So just in case, I will check whether YouTube is live.
YouTube should be. I see Simon from YouTube in the comments.
Exactly. And when you see comments, you can click a button to highlight them. Yeah, so something like that. Okay. And yeah, we will start in 1 minute. I'm just checking that everything is going okay, but it seems so. Though YouTube channel is a bit complicated always, but yeah, from what it seems, the stream is doing okay. And yes, we are live on YouTube too. So just 1 second, and we go ahead with the presentation. Yeah. Sorry, I'm still trying to post a link and then close all the channels, which is probably the most complicated thing today. Yeah, I had quite a rough week with a lot of travel, a lot of different events, like having a ride in the night back to my city, something like 200 kilometers. So yeah, I feel a little bit dizzy, and yeah, if you're following the global events in Russia, you may have noticed that the weekend wasn't exactly the most easy too. So yeah.
Oh yeah, and you were like in Israel last week.
Yeah,
wow.
Exactly. So I'm completely jet lagged, even without going outside the European time zones. And yeah, hi everyone. So now let's go forward. And first of all, thanks a lot to Sarah for agreeing to host the meetup. So Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. I'm Sarah. I do revenue operations at WireMock, and yeah, really enjoy it.
And all the community stuff. So yeah, we're looking forward to see you in the community channels too. And yeah, today the goal is to have a short presentation about what's going on in the community, where we are going, and we are recording this presentation, so it will be later available to the community. There is no goal to have as many people as possible. We are really shy about the announcements. So from what I see, we have 5 people in the moment. Some people will join through social media, etc. So we will see that in the stats. Yeah, for this presentation, feel free to just interrupt me as needed. So Sarah can ask a question at any moment, and I will be doing a short overview, and then the key focus will be to discuss all your questions about the community, about the challenges you see there. And if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat, and later we can discuss them on WireMock Slack. So let me share my screen. Okay, and where are my slides? So that's what happens when you have 3 Google Workspace accounts. But yeah, I'm ready. Do you see my screen?
Not yet. Oh, it's coming up now.
It takes some time. So we are using StreamYard as a backend. So this is why we're able to stream to all the channels. When we did the first presentation with Pass 2 weeks ago, we used the same framework, but now we did some enhancements in terms of connectivity. So hopefully you all get HD right away. But yeah, if not, please let us know in the feedback. So again, today we talk about WireMock open ecosystem and where we're going. To some extent, it's a state of the union talk. So I want to talk about what we have at the moment, what we would like to achieve, and share some statistics and some recent releases for the project. And let's go ahead. So if you haven't met me yet, my name is Oleg. I'm a community manager and developer advocate. I joined WireMock Inc. In April to help with building open source community and ecosystem around it. But actually, I have been an active user of WireMock for almost 9 years by now. Yeah, I developed a lot of integration tests with WireMock when working on the Jenkins project, on products based on that, and even before Jenkins. I actually applied it quite a few times for electronic design automation tools, which happen to talk to APIs quite a lot these days too. So I'm also a CNCF ambassador, Continuous Delivery Foundation ambassador, and I still remain on the Jenkins governing board. And well, I guess there are a few dozens of other public titles I have. So today, when we have a State of the Union talk, the common question, I already actually got it in DMs ahead of this session, is what we're actually talking about, whether it's community State of the Union talk or whether it's WireMock Incorporated, as also known as our small startup State of the Union. For sure, today I talk about the community. I will be talking only about open source. But I decided that since there are questions, some disambiguation is actually needed because the company WireMock happens to be named the same, while WireMock itself is an open source project and open source community, and we are fully committed to that. So just to quick extent explanation. So WireMock Inc. is a company that started last year and it offers WireMock Cloud as a SaaS product. It's based on WireMock. It includes a lot of value-added features and basically it's a developer portal for all kinds of development of APIs and it also provides API mocking capabilities, same as WireMock. But today, as I said, we talk about WireMock as open source, and the good news is that WireMock Cloud actually helps us to fund WireMock development. This May, we got a seed investment round, so this is why I was able to join the team, and this is why we are actually able to expand our investment in open source. So I hope it's good news for everyone. And in this announcement, we actually mentioned a few things that we would like to see in WireMock in open source, including new features for WireMock and WireMock users, also improving supportability of the products and extending the ecosystem for other popular languages. It actually triggered a lot of questions because WireMock is still perceived by many as just a tool for Java, just a unit testing library, but in fact, it's not. And today we can talk about other use cases. And if you have some, just drop the questions. So I will talk briefly about where we are as a community, what are the recent releases, what actually happens with ecosystem as whole, and where we are going. And then we will talk specifically about WireMock and what we would like to achieve in its ecosystem. These slides are already public. They are licensed under the Creative Commons license, so you can just take them if you're interested. And yeah, if you use YouTube or LinkedIn, there should be a link that is parsable. If not, I will share it later. Usually I put a QR code, but yeah, hopefully it's good enough. Okay, So yeah, back to WireMock. So just a quick start. WireMock, as all of us know, it started as a Java library almost 12 years ago. I believe that we will be celebrating 12 years in October, and hopefully we'll have quite a lot to brag about. So WireMock is super popular. Now it has more than 5 million downloads per month from different locations. And actually we have two versions available in WireMock Java. So it's stable 2.x release. We're also working on the 3.x, which is currently in beta and which is available to Java developers. And many of you have already tried it. And there is a lot more activities going on. Important thing that WireMock actually keeps growing, and it keeps growing quite fast in terms of downloads, in terms of applications. First of all, it's because many companies actually adopt continuous integration and a continuous delivery as it's supposed to work. So there is more demand in developer tools, more demand in fast testing, and hence WireMock becomes more and more popular. The same for contributions, the same for actually search queries. WireMock is trending everywhere, and it's being used quite actively by many projects. So here I have a number of 181 contributors. Actually, this number is just for WireMock core, and if you're interested, we can get more numbers. So I make no commitments to stick to slides today. And yeah, so let me show how you can get this information. So there is WireMock community, and here there is a cauldron setup, which we configured to get some basic metrics about the community and how it's going. So here you can see that historically we had 279 Git committers in all the repositories within WireMock GitHub organization. The actual number is probably around 500 if we take all the implementations that are currently outside, and the number of issue submitters and contributors actually keeps growing. So you can easily find some trends and changes there, but yeah, the project development is actually quite active, and there is a lot of activities going on. What is important that WireMock keeps expanding beyond Java. So you may have seen WireMock standalone. So it's basically instance of WireMock that can be provisioned and can serve your API requests. There is also WireMock Cloud, which basically acts as a WireMock standalone. And also there are implementations for many different languages. And we believe that the expansions of these applications and the expansion beyond Java, beyond unit and integration tests is what we need as a tool. And this is what we have been quite actively working on. And I will show a few examples later. So we have at the moment quite a lot of different implementations, and thanks a lot to the community for doing these implementations. When I just started with WireMock as a community manager, I created a Google Doc where I tried to capture all actively used WireMock related repositories, including implementations, adapters, various developer tools, etc. And I counted something like 50 repositories for different languages, for different implementations. Some are more compatible, some are less compatible with WireMock, but it's actually proved that there is a high demand in similar API mocking, or as we also say, API simulation tools. So I believe that WireMock is in a quite a good spot. Regarding the implementations, as I said, we have WireMock Docker, which is basically a portable version. We also have Java Runtime, which is again portable to any environment where you can run Java, and after some magic applied, also Android. Yeah, there is also different implementations and adapters for different technology stacks that actually allows WireMock to be used anywhere. So this is what the state of the project, and actually it has been a state maybe for the 5 last year. So most of the implementations have been created before most of the implementations are still active and being widely used. And at the same time, we clearly see that there is demand in having some consolidation and in having some alignment between these implementations. And there are many natural reasons why it actually happens. So, as I said, WireMock is not a new project. There is a lot of special requirements coming in. Also, Java evolves, developer tools evolve, and more specifically, applications evolve. So for us these days, basically APIs are everywhere, software is everywhere, and all the approaches have changed. So 11 years ago, it was rare that somebody would have adopted continuous integration. I mean, not having a build server, but having a real continuous integration process. Now we talk about continuous delivery, continuous deployment, progressive delivery, various kinds of A/B testing, and also various approaches to managing the software. So it can be infrastructure as code, you can use special tools and special frameworks like Kubernetes or Docker for deployments. You can use public clouds. Of course, you want to adopt DevOps methodologies. You want to shift left and have a lot of development and testing happen in your development teams. So the specifics of the development has changed at the moment. And there is a lot of new tools that appear to address these requirements. I can mention quite a few. So if you are in the Java world, you may know about mock server. You may know about test containers, which basically puts your system in Docker. We will talk about it a little bit later. Also, there are cloud native solutions like Microx, and all of them address API mocking use case. Also, there is a lot of products around these days. There are big and popular products like Postman. There are implementations in different IDEs like IntelliJ IDE, Visual Studio that embed some API mocking capabilities out of the box. The same basically for other languages and technologies. So for example, Spring Boot, Spring contracts have some bits of API mocking right away, and same for many other technologies. So the layout became super complicated, and there is still demand to have some consolidation. Like in many other projects, there are some standards going on. And for us, when we talk about modern applications, of course, it's all about APIs. So everyone uses APIs and everyone relies on APIs. So for WireMock and for other API simulation tools, currently, as we see, they are being used everywhere. And hence the demand for different unification. You have many tools, you have many your own projects, you might have many technology stacks, and if there is no alignment and unification, it could quickly become a mess that is super difficult to maintain. And actually, it's made worse by change of how development flows work, because now, instead of common case when we do some unit testing, then integration testing, then system testing, then we pass everything to the release candidates, then a separate team does all kinds of acceptance tests, etc., etc. So everything changed at the moment. If you talk about continuous delivery, etc., we need to do all the tests as quickly as possible, and many tests, many types of tests should be actually happening quickly during the development, and hence the large shift left movement, especially in quality assurance in industry. So with WireMock, with test containers, with other tools, actually it became normal that when you write unit test, actually you write integration test, actually you write system test if you have a full system mocked or emulated in a container, and there is no such separation anymore. WireMock and other tools actually enabled it to do fast. Now with containers, there are even more. Another part that could simplify the current ecosystem is, of course, open standards, because we saw many tools using APIs along something like 10 years ago. There were first implementations of Swagger and other tools that actually tried to unify and standardize how APIs work, especially REST APIs. And there were a lot of developer tools created for that. These developer tools are portable, and when it comes to API mocking, people want API mocking to be portable too, because for them it doesn't really matter in which language you write the client code, whether it's .NET, Java, C++, Rust. They basically want to test the same service, connect to the same service, and hence for them it would be super expensive to use different mocking implementations or different server sites. So this is why there is demand on some unification that actually impacts WireMock quite a lot. We have, as I said, multiple implementations, but unfortunately, these implementations are not very well aligned with each other. Before we continue, are there any questions? I guess not, but just checking. So if you have any questions, just ask in the chat. We will be able to answer them. And yeah, let's continue. So what actually changes with WireMock at the moment? So first of all, yeah, there is a number of directions that have been clear in the community for a few years and that I emphasized now. So first of all, improving developer experience, which means basically improving developer experience for your applications, not just for you using a single unit framework or a single technology stack. You as developer should be able to use WireMock everywhere. Also, there is effort towards open source community consolidation that should enable this developer experience, enable unification between projects, and at the same time help us to onboard more contributors and more individual and company participants to the projects. Last but not least, it's actually growing the ecosystem because we see the need in WireMock, all modern frameworks and all modern technology stacks. And without a strong community, it's super difficult to maintain that. So while these three directions are listed separately, in fact, they are interconnected with each other, and in fact, they pursue the same goal: the well-being of the community and also great experience for everyone who uses the project, adopts it, extends it, and customizes for their needs. Just a few items that happen on the developer experience side at the moment. So first of all, it might sound odd, but we start from documentation because WireMock documentation is being quite heavily used by developers, and that documentation could definitely see a lot of improvements, especially when we talk about the ecosystem. So in the recent months, in the community, we put quite a lot of efforts to make the documentation more simple, to support more use cases. And if you navigate here, you can see that now we have a landing that provides you with some kinds of catalog of key items, which you can navigate by use case, by technology, and you can find a lot of answers and details here. For different technologies, for different implementations, you can find something. There is a lot of work, but at least it's there. Also, we had support for multiple versions because for a long time, WireMock 3 was around, but there was no documentation published. Now it's available on the same website. You can try it out. You can try out the new features, which are already available in beta release. And if you experience some issues, you can easily share your experiences. For example, there is report an issue button, which takes you directly to the documentation page that helps us to track where it is, and you can improve it, and you can also contribute to the page if it's needed. So for the documentation, currently there is a lot of content to be created, but at least we improved how it looks for users and how you can find the content you actually need. More changes definitely to come, and I think that it's actually a big improvement already. Another thing that we added is API templates library, because what we see, a lot of integrations happen with standard external services. For example, if you have GitHub, GitLab, all these services need some adoptions, some integrations. And if you want to use WireMock for them, it's not easy if you don't have a ready-to-go API mocking definition. And what we did, we created standard API mocking definitions for something like 2,000 services that you can find on this site. There is a lot of various common solutions, especially for public cloud services, and for each service you can find some API definitions that you can easily use. So, for example, for Medium, etc., there is WireMock JSON, which is a big file that you can download, and it's basically a WireMock definition for all common requests, and you can get it right away. All these definitions are open source, open for contributions. You can also add your services. But yeah, from what we see, it actually saves time to a lot of developers that depend on public services. If you have a private service and want to have a similar setup, you can either use WireMock Cloud, or you can just fork this website and actually run your own database. It's super easy to set it up. Another important thing we have added recently, and that should actually help, is beta extensibility. So currently, Tom, the founder of WireMock, actually works on beta extension engine for WireMock 3, which would add features like auto discovery, tracing of APIs, and proper loading, so that it becomes easier to develop and actually apply various extensions to WireMock. Many of new features, including, for example, GraphQL support, gRPC support, will be coming through extensions. So it's our interest to have a better engine for that in WireMock, and there is a lot of development here. You can find information about the new engine and changes in the documentation. Again, it's a living document. There is a lot of changes being claimed in 3.x, and please feel free to contribute if you're interested in this topic. So in the beginning of June, Buzz Dijkstra actually presented how to develop extensions, and be sure it will be even easier in the next generations of WireMock. What is else important here is that all the developer experience, etc., is actually driven by the roadmap, and it's discussed in the community. So if you use WireMock, if you hit any obstacles, you can always go to our channels, for example, to WireMock, and just submit a ticket. Now, for the issue tracker, you can easily find things, for example, enhancement requests, bug reports. So there are standard templates that then you can use. And if you need more help, you can always go to our community Slack with a lot of discussions. There we created help channel that actually intends to help developers if they're stuck with WireMock. So for any question, you can just go here and ask. And moreover, there is database on Stack Overflow, and there are more support channels that are available if you're interested. So if you use WireMock, if you hit any obstacles, please let us know, and we try to make it as easy as possible. So on the community side, there is also quite a lot of things happening, because you cannot easily scale the community without providing a proper framework. When I actually joined WireMock as a company, I realized that there is a lot that needs to be done. So we started from the point when there are many repositories. These repositories are located elsewhere. These repositories are quite complicated, not always maintained. The implementations are not compatible with each other in terms of configuration files, in terms of behavior, feature-wise. And this is something we would need to improve to provide better experience. And no wonder if you have such technology layout as a repository set, as a implementation set, you do not have a single community for WireMock. So for example, WireMock Java and WireMock.NET have completely isolated communities, isolated channels. Most of other implementations have no channels at all. So for a user, it's quite difficult to operate in this environment, especially if you use multiple technology stacks. As a consequence, it's also really difficult to understand what's going on, because all the implementations, all the extensions, they evolve in different directions. And for any potential contributor who wants to enhance WireMock, who wants to address issues, it's a big challenge to discover the repository, to understand how to contribute to this particular repository, whether you need to sign a CLA, whether there are special ceremonies to be followed, and whether the repository is alive to start with, because many repositories are de facto not evolving anymore. Yeah, we wanted to address that, and we actually did quite a lot of progress on that since the beginning of the year. So in January, the community Slack was introduced. So it's a channel which you can easily access by going to slack.wiremock.org. It's a redirect link to our registration. And now we have more than 600 people there. There is a lot of lively channels, including the help one, also various kinds of contributing channels, by technology channels. So there is a lot of interesting things going on. The same for the community. We basically started the framework from scratch, but there is a lot of things that have been already introduced. So for example, yeah, we have quite common features like contributor community governance document that describes how decisions are made, how maintainers make decisions in their components, etc. It's super important if you want to onboard more contributors. And also there are common things like code of conduct. There is community management dashboards that highlights what we actually need to do as a community. And for example, if you're a maintainer, if you need some community channel or some implementation, you can just create a ticket there, and I will be happy to help. More importantly, yeah, we started social media accounts. It might seem not necessary to an open source developer, but actually it's quite useful to do outreach, to promote new content, to provide contributing opportunities, and to actually become visible in the ecosystem. So now we have all kinds of channels, and we promote WireMock through these channels. So for example, this presentation is streamed to Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, even if it's quite an internal presentation for whomever is interested. What is even more important is that now we have a public roadmap, because before that, for many other projects, it wasn't clear where WireMock is going, and we put in some effort to actually highlight the key initiatives that happen in the project. For example, in terms of WireMock Java, in terms of other WireMock implementations, and we put all the key initiatives we currently have in the community on a single GitHub project, so you can find the efforts which are currently in progress or in preview and waiting for feedback. Also, there are some items that we're about starting soon. If you're interested in a particular technology, in a particular repository, you can apply a bunch of filters, but all key items, we try to track them here, and it's a good addition for the repository-based tracing. So you can find a lot of information here. What is important to mention is that all these items, basically, they depend on contributions. There is no commitment on dates, on fact delivery on its own. So please do not consider all these items as a commitment. These items will happen only if there are people interested in them. And of course, it's a good opportunity for you if you're interested in a particular feature. So for example, soon we will be doing GraphQL request matching. There is actually already an implementation of an extension in Kotlin, just announced 1 or 2 weeks ago, and we want to also make it a part of the community. So if you're interested in GraphQL matching and mocking, please let us know. There is an opportunity. The same for gRPC, etc. And this is a benefit of this roadmap, because we will be showing all key initiatives that you actually can contribute to. Or if you're interested as a stakeholder, you can also just participate and even drive these activities if you want. For WireMock ecosystem, any questions so far? Oh, yes, Simon, I mentioned, that there is a group ID change ticket. Yes, that's right. We also want to streamline our Maven Central a bit, because right now, yeah, it's quite complicated because everyone uses different locations in Maven Central on GitHub packages. And we also want to have a centralized structure so that everyone can easily find all the components and that there is some governance put for that, so we can ensure sustainability of all the extensions. Okay, back to WireMock ecosystem. So again, we want to make WireMock accessible to developers regardless of their technology stacks. And right now, while we have a lot of technologies, it's not easy to say what actually works well and what's not. So for example, we know for a fact that the Android implementation and guidelines, it needs a major update. There are 2 competing implementations for Rust, many other implementations, for example, for Golang, for Node.js, they basically act as a Docker wrapper, while other implementations like Python just try to set up a jar and interact directly with it. So there is some alignment that would be needed, and we actually started doing so. The first idea for us is, of course, talk to maintainers of active implementations and actually do some kind of unification that would be beneficial for everyone. So, for example, setting the same configuration formats, setting the same REST APIs, various kinds of observability events, for example, for OpenTelemetry, CLI interfaces if needed, etc., etc. So there is a lot of advantages for that for users that use multiple technology stacks, which is fortunately or not a default these days, because you do front end, you do back end, and also normally when you do cloud native deployments, you have at least 2 or 3 technologies just for the implementation part. It's good because you're in containers, but for testing purposes, you still need to master all these technologies. So having unified APIs and unified standards definitely makes sense. Moreover, there is a lot of developer tools for WireMock that are already out there. So maybe you've seen some tools like WireMock Inspector that was released just a few months ago, and other tools that could actually help users of all WireMock ecosystems. The problem that right now these tools are specialized for one implementation. They cannot talk to each other. And I believe that we should actually align all these tools and make it possible through unification to use the same tools for any implementation. So we started a few efforts on that. There is a repository for the specification that I plan to evolve. We had some initial collaboration with, for example, WireMock.net and WireMock Python maintainers, and hopefully it will keep growing like that. Regarding technical directions, there are a few other items that we would like to have for consolidation. So one of items for us is actually to having one implementation that would address most of the cases. So right now, for any language, any technology stack, you need to either integrate or reuse the implementation somehow via various adapters, and it's quite complicated. Also, other major items on our roadmap is, of course, adding more protocols. So gRPC, GraphQL is something in the works. There is already gRPC converter. There is already a GraphQL extension that is available. I also have a prototype of cloud events implementation, and hopefully more protocols will be available soon. On the technical side, there are also quite a few important projects. So there is WireMock 3, about which you can join a presentation by Tom next week. So it's basically a new version of WireMock that would drop a lot of technical depth and at the same time introduce a lot of new capabilities, including extensibility, API matching, and also troubleshooting capabilities. So these are key items that we have on the list. And again, this is a really top level view. So for fine grain view, you can go to our roadmap and find it there. But ultimately, every component that we have in our ecosystem has their own milestones, has their own release cycles. So there is a lot more things that are going on, and which we would be happy to highlight there, but we definitely need inputs from the maintainers and contributors about what is important to highlight. So For me, one of the things that I have been using for quite a while until now, and what I believe is a main thing to focus in the coming weeks, is actually having WireMock being put in a container. Why it's important? Because right now we have so many different implementations, it's so difficult to manage them. But if we had an efficient implementation in Java, if you could put it in a container, for example, with fine-tuned GDK, like Adoptium, or like or like, for example, Quarkus, etc., it would make it more easier for us to maintain that creating multiple implementations. And what we talked about for quite a while in the community, that the path that seems to be the most feasible for us is actually taking test containers as a carrier framework. Because the problem for us is that if we put WireMock in the container, it's totally possible. We have WireMock Docker implementation that is available to everyone, that is maintained well. Basically, it does its job quite well. But the problem there is that using API mocking isn't just provisioning a container. There is a lot of features that are accessible only through APIs. There is a lot of advanced use cases which you need to provision. There is also a lot of complex cases for packaging, for example, if you need extensions. So it's not as straightforward as it might look. And hence a wrapper framework would be needed that would provision the container for the test, tear it down. And for that, test containers is actually a solution that is super popular in the Java world and popular in other technology stacks. And we are doing integrations across the board with test containers. So for us, yeah, I cannot ask how many people are familiar with test containers, but I hope quite a lot by now. And for us, it's basically a container management layer and also a framework integration layer that can be used for testing. And shortly after I started with WireMock, I actually created a test containers model for Java. So it's basically a Java implementation of the container that is quite flexible. It's currently in alpha, but we are going towards a 1.0 release. And it mostly re-implements the interfaces that WireMock Java has, but the implementation is actually in a container. So you can just say that I need test container. It's a JUnit 5 example. So you say, I need a test container. This test container would be WireMock. I use version 2.35. I put some mapping, and then everything happens. And the advantage for that this implementation is actually available for multiple technology stacks. So as long as you use test containers, you can actually port to different implementations. So for example, now there are official frameworks for Java, Golang, .NET, Node.js, and many other languages. So actually there are more implementations. Some of them are just not official. I started tinkering with C++ implementation, but be sure you do not want to see the code. So the advantage of test containers is that it's actually not just a generic container thing. You can customize it. You can provide quality of life APIs, and for WireMock, we can add many features and make it easier to use. So in my examples, I can show them later if we have some time. But yeah, it actually becomes quite flexible. For example, you can add an extension within a single click without actually messing up your dependency tree. And even more for other languages, because the same extension, the same WireMock Java can be now used for other languages, so that there is no feature differences, and the only thing one would need is to create proper SDK on the top of test containers. What is quite important is that basically it's not just a single container, but it's actually a support for Docker Compose, and hence provisioning clusters of containers that can communicate with each other. So for example, you can easily put a WireMock in front of existing service, for example, also test container like a database or existing server, and just proxy some requests, for example, if you need to inject failures, etc., with WireMock. So this implementation won't be just Java. We already have a pull request for, yeah, I'm just skipping a few slides. So we already have a pull request for Python implementation. We have draft for Rust. We have a plan to do WireMock model for .NET, which would support both WireMock Java and WireMock.NET under the hood, and many other implementations that should appear if there is interest for the community. One thing about this implementation that is actually not slow, because WireMock takes some time to start up, especially when we have complex configurations, etc. And thanks to ability of test containers to cache the images, to suspend them between tests, it actually becomes much more convenient. So for me, having WireMock a part of this test containers ecosystem that is already widely used for various projects. Test containers is one of the most quickly adopted Java projects that is being integrated in different frameworks. So I think for us as WireMock, it's important to be there. And actually for us, the community and the ecosystem, it should simplify the adoption and should save a lot of time. So yeah, I already mentioned the proxy, but yeah, it's definitely possible. So for other implementations, hopefully we will have Java release 1.0 in a week or two. I still have a few comments that I need to address. For example, simplifying management of extensions, simplifying APIs. There is, as I said, pull request by Mike Waits. So if you use Python with WireMock, it's definitely an opportunity to share feedback. And for .NET and Rust, stay tuned for the pull requests. They are coming quite soon. So, any questions so far? Yeah.
Nothing in the
for
chat
local
yet.
stack, indeed. Yeah. So yeah, one thing for local stack, yeah, as Simon mentioned, it works really well. And actually, what is currently happening, so there is an official models program, and some models are highlighted as official ones. So we try to do the same for WireMock in the moment. We actually did quite a lot of checklists for certification, like adding Java 8 support, which is actually another reason to consider test containers and WireMock, because we will be dropping Java 8 in a WireMock 3 release. So it's basically the only way to continue if you want to get access to modern features. And yeah, test containers is actually awesome. I have been an early user and contributor to it. And I think that the first time I used WireMock and test containers together was something like 2009, when I was working on the Jenkins plugin installation manager tool. So yeah, it's definitely quite exciting combination. And if you're interested in developer tooling, please try it out and actually share your feedback. So for WireMock 3, as I mentioned, next week we will have a presentation by Tom. So I don't want to spend a lot of time today talking about what's going on. If you're interested, again, you can discover everything in our repositories. So if you go to WireMock, there is actually a pinned WireMock 3.0 issue. I'm well aware that there are so many issues that we need to take a look at. So we will be doing scrubs, etc. after WireMock 3 release. But yeah, so you can find a lot of things here. Also, we have a project that actually highlights the key bits that are being landed to WireMock 3. And I believe the expectation is the next month, also, if everything works out as we expected. So if you're interested, join us for the next meetup. Okay, regarding takeaways, so of course, WireMock keeps evolving. There is a lot of new features being added, a lot of new capabilities. I did not mention some bits, but that are also in flight and added quite recently. So for example, we have added a few more extensions to WireMock GitHub organization. And if you consider developing extensions, you can just join this repository right away. Another thing that we have in the flight is actually Kubernetes deployment. So now we have Helm chart, which we again transferred from one of the maintainers. And the plan is to have an official release so that there would be a Helm chart that helps to deploy WireMock in Kubernetes. Again, this is something like basic functionality. If you need operators with a lot of advanced features, definitely please feel free to reach out and contribute, but at least basic deployments would be official quite soon. So, yeah.
We have a question in the chat, Oleg.
Yeah.
Here,
Let's bring it on.
There you go.
Actually, I do not see.
Oh.
Okay. Are we planning to reuse existing GraphQL extension? It's a really good question because I don't know. So the thing that there is, so just a few weeks ago, there was a release of the extension WireMock GraphQL. So you can see that there is actually quite a lot of references. Yeah. I'm just putting a little bit more keywords. I guess this one, or maybe not. Yeah, not this one. So I actually found another extension attempt, which I missed before. So if you look a lot on GitHub, you can actually find quite a lot of the things. But yeah, what I'm actually looking for is just an exception. Oh, I think that, yeah. When my memory betrays me, I can just go to Twitter. So I'm looking for that, but yeah, to answer your question, Kapish, yeah, here it is. So right now we need to decide what we do about it. I reached out to the maintainer. I'm trying to set up a discussion. The problem is that this extension right now exists only in Kotlin and only in Japanese. So definitely some localization would be needed before it could be added to the repositories. But I actually think that it would be an interesting implementation. The question is whether we can actually maintain it as Kotlin 1, because yeah, for Kotlin, yeah, you have a lot of runtime dependencies. It's literally impossible to mock these runtime dependencies. So yeah, maintaining it in such implementation in the future, it will be super complicated. And maybe we will find another solution. So any other questions? Okay, then just a call to action. Actually, this is a really good time to contribute. And as I said in the beginning of the presentation, we actually, yeah, I'm not sharing my screen anymore, right? Mm-hmm.
You're not sharing your screen anymore now. We can.
Okay, well, now I do.
Oh, sorry. There you are.
Well, okay, so at least I haven't been kicked. Okay, so here, yeah, for the extensions, yeah, again, take a look. And for contributing guidelines, actually, we put some effort to help others to contribute. So if you use WireMock, if you want to participate, you can just go to this location. So there are some summary of different ways to contribute, and not just code, but also documentation, advocacy, testing, artwork, etc., etc. So all kinds of contributions are always valuable. And if you're interested to contribute, yeah, just join on Slack. There is help on contributing channel where you can find all the guidelines and support. And yeah, there is an extensive contributor guide that covers different contribution use cases. We keep it on GitHub at the moment. So again, please take a look. There are references to newcomer-friendly issues. There are references to repository-specific contributing guidelines, which are available in many other repositories. So I think it's a good time to contribute, and well, as I keep saying, it's always a good time to contribute. So if you're interested, do not wait for October 1st, etc., because actually these days you can find a lot more availability from maintainers to provide some mentorship and provide some feedback for your changes. And yeah, thanks to all WireMock contributors. At the moment, I don't have a team photo even for our team. Well, I have no group photo even for myself. So eventually, if we meet at one of the conferences, etc., let's take a selfie together, and then we will have a panel of different selfies. One thing that needs to be mentioned, and that now we have some WireMock swag like T-shirts you have just seen, also cups and many other things. Thanks to Sarah for organizing that, and I believe that soon we will be able to distribute these things to all active contributors. So fingers crossed, and yeah.
We have a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. And for Mocktoberfest, yes, for sure. So yeah, just join us. So I hope this Oktoberfest we actually organized a few interesting things for everyone. So stay tuned for October. Any other questions before we close down? Okay, one link I definitely want to share with everyone is this one. What's going on? Okay, it just takes some time. So yeah, if you're interested in contributing, if you're using WireMock, please join Slack WireMock.org because there is a lot of active discussions. Also, this membership in the Slack channel is a part of my KPI, so please join. Thank you. And seriously, this channel, I believe that it's getting better and better with more conversations happening, and we will be actually bringing maintainers of other projects, etc., to the same community resource. So hopefully, it will become WireMock Central or whatever for the community purposes. So. Okay. Thanks all for your time, and hopefully it was interesting as a kind of overview. And thanks a lot, Sarah, for hosting.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks for having me with you.
Okay. So I'll end the broadcast, and thanks again. See you on Slack.
Bye, guys.